Welcome to our community broadcasting network featuring the Health and Wellness Best Practices podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Streeter. Today's program will feature the advocacy group Colorado Mad Moms. Founded in August of 2024, they are a grassroots organization of parents, family members, and caretakers of persons living with a serious mental or brain illness and their allies. Their vision is that children living with serious mental illness be treated with dignity and respect, and that they receive the person-centered, equitable, compassionate, and evidence-based care and support. Visiting with us today is Kate Rawlinson, the founder of Colorado Mad Moms. Kate, welcome to the program, and thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great, great. Mad Moms is something that is relatively new as a grassroots advocacy group, and you are the founder. You want to give us a little background how this got started and where you are right now?
Sure. I would say personally, my advocacy began about 3 years ago, and that was because I joined a group of moms called the Angry Moms, and they're actually a loose coalition, probably even looser than the Mad Moms, of parents from across the U.S. Who are advocating for a particular medication that the FDA was restricting and making access to very, very, very difficult. So out of that, we had a lot of success. So the FDA removed clozapine in February of this year, so just in the last 2 months, from a restrictive system called REMS. Anyway, when that happened, we had already one group had already started forming the Arizona Mad Moms, and they were about almost a year ahead of us. And I was asked if I wanted to start a group here in Colorado. And so at that time, because my son is doing so extremely well and in meaningful recovery on clozapine, I decided that I had to give back. I had the opportunity. I'm retired. I have the time. I have worked in nonprofits most of my life, so I had the knowledge, um, and certainly the passion. So that's how it started last in August of 24.
For something that just started less than a year ago, this is extremely impactful. Um, And, you want to describe again the typical mom that is in Mad Moms and, and what the group is really trying to achieve.
Sure. Um, well, we're not just moms to start with. We're dads, we're aunts, we're uncles, we're brothers, we're sisters. We're even some caregivers who have no blood relationship, no familial relationship to the people they're helping. They may help volunteer in homeless organizations, for instance, and they kind of take someone under their wing and become an advocate for them and help them navigate the system and get care. So we are a coalition of caregivers, is how I like to think of us. Um, we decided not to change the name Mad Moms, which Arizona had already coined, partially because of the connotation. We're dealing with severe mental illness, so the idea that we're mad, angry, and we're a little crazy, was something that we embraced. So this group of people, as we began pulling together, we came up with a mission basically that we felt worked for us, that we wanted to not just advocate, but we also wanted to educate, as a strong part of advocacy is to fight the lack of knowledge out there and the strong stigma against people who have severe mental illness. And we also wanted to support our members because severe mental illness does not just hit a family member, one person. It hits the entire family. And by hit, I mean it destroys families often. It requires families sometimes to have two homes, especially if there are siblings of the person with severe mental illness and there are issues of danger that come into play. Um, it sometimes requires a parent to quit a job so that, they can focus on that one person. So it's not unlike, dementia that comes at a later point. And in fact, schizophrenia, which is one of the severe mental illnesses included, was called dementia praecox when it was first diagnosed and labeled. And that just means early or premature dementia. So it's very similar to what many people our age are dealing with our spouses and siblings and such. Um, so that our organization really wanted to focus on severe mental illness, which sometimes is called serious mental illness by in the medical profession. Um, Sometimes we like to call it severe brain illness. No.
Well, I'll tell you, you have, in a very short time, gotten some real champions in the Colorado State Legislature that recognize these issues. And you recently had your first day of advocacy for people living with severe mental illness at the state capitol. You want to tell us a little bit about that? That was just a wonderful day.
It really was, and it was a really moving day, I have to tell you, because most of the people in the coalition have not met in person before. They've mainly met on Zoom. Now, a few had met before in other events that we've had, but we've had a real surge in people joining since last December when we had a article come out in the Colorado Sun, and which had 50,000 hits in the first 48 hours. So it is an issue that a lot of people are very interested in, and it was one where I told my story about my son, and another mom told story about her daughter, who's currently in one of the state hospitals. And so this was an opportunity for them to meet each other now and to tell their stories to each other and share. And one of the biggest issues around for families trying to help their loved ones is isolation. And I think that's very true in again the elderly dementia community too. You become isolated partially because you have to be there, and partially because, especially with younger dementia, there's so much stigma, so your neighbors are fearful, you lose friends. They're afraid to talk about it. They have this Hollywood idea about what it is to have these illnesses. And yes, sometimes that happens, but the majority of time it does not. No. If it does, it tends to be directed toward more family members than people outside, but it does happen. Um, so yes, having some legislators who understand this, who get this, Senator Judy Amabile is absolutely indefatigable fighter for this issue because her own son has SMI. Daphne Michelson Janae, same thing, a family member. No, so they get it. They understand. They understand that the services just aren't there, that the system often doesn't want, even the medical care system doesn't want family involved because they think we're part of the problem, which is an old stigma against mothers in particular around schizophrenia. More enlightened people understand that we are an ally. And so the people at this coalition, at this rally and gathering, first we were introduced in the chamber, in the legislative chamber, the Senate chamber, I should say, by our senators, those two senators. And I was very pleased to see as they spoke, a number of people, a number of other senators standing at their desk as a show of respect. Um, and then all of our coalition was armed with these fact sheets. So those larger posters that you see them carrying, we also had reproduced those as smaller fact sheets, and on the back of them had listed our mission and some of our stands, our positions. And they were able to ask to speak to senators and other legislators out in the hallways and lobbyists and such, and hand them these fact sheets and introduce themselves. And they had little business cards they could write their name on and ask the sergeant at arms to ask that senator if they could speak with them. And so the senator would come over when they had a break and speak with them. So it was a wonderful opportunity for people who live in sometimes in isolation and sometimes in just constant fear, whether they will get a phone call in the middle of the night that their loved one is either arrested or is no longer living. So the emotion, the emotion of advocating, I find is very healing. So I feel like it was an incredible event for support, of each other and of oneself to be able to say, I'm doing something to try to change what is broken in Colorado. That day, we did have that in the morning. We spent a lot of time talking with each other. And then we had a rally out on the East Steps. And so that rally was an opportunity. Not only did Senator Janae and Senator Amabile speak, but we also had Michelle Barnes, Colorado Department of Human Services. And then also the Attorney General Weiser walked through. I mean, he was at the Capitol, and we had asked him to come out to the East Steps there, and he did. And they each spoke a little bit too. So, and then there were other representatives, and there were, people who came from some of the agencies, from BHA and HICBUF and such that were there. So I think it was just an opportunity. It was our first one, for one thing. So it gave us an opportunity to practice. So now we already have a list of all the things we're going to do for next year, and it will be bigger and it will be better, and we'll get more press coverage, and we'll have better photographers and everything to be able to capture more of it.
I've been in public affairs broadcasting. I started back in 1999 with my wife, and I have interacted with and covered a lot of advocacy groups. But Colorado Mad Moms is like off the charts in how quickly you have been able to mobilize and activate the issue with people that are powerful and very willing to support. So I'm going to really enjoy watching your growth, and I'm going to help wherever I can as well. So, do you have any final thoughts for us today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. We need to get the word out, and this is a great way to do it, especially to the people who are beginning to deal with this on their own They're realizing that they are a family member, maybe it's a neighbor even, needs help, needs advice, needs support. No. And that's what we're here to do. So we do have a website, coloradomadmoms.org. And on that, we post our Zooms. So we have two support Zooms for our caregivers, which are not open to the public necessarily, but at least we don't really want the press to be there necessarily and asking questions, to be a private, safe space. But we also have an advocacy Zoom, and that's only going on for a few more weeks, where our advocacy group meets and we discuss the bills we're focusing on and help prepare each other for testimony and letter writing, and sometimes bring in a person who can tell us more about a particular bill. We also have once a month on the third Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the speaker of the month, we have an open Zoom series called Listen Up. And basically, these are talks by people who have expertise in particular areas.
Well, Kate, you have an open invitation to come back and share whatever information as your organization continues to grow. And I really do appreciate the time you've spent with us today to bring us up to speed on a very, very important issue. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We have a lot more things happening soon. A lot of things that are pots on the stove that are cooking at different speeds. So I'll be happy to come back and talk about them as they develop.
For information about Colorado Mad Moms and to learn more about how to advocate for people or persons with serious mental illness, visit www.comadmoms.org.